How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the Flagrant Talk Sports Podcast. It's Moses here, coming to you guys today with our first MLB content of the 2025 season on our channel. Very excited to be bringing this to you guys today. As you can see from the title, we are going to be grading the offseason for every MLB team heading into the 2025 season. With the season about a month away from opening day, spring break is well underway, about a week into play, and the games taking place in Tokyo, the technical opening day happening March 18th and March 19th, in a matchup between the LA Dodgers and the Chicago Cubs, which is going to be an exciting start to the MLB season. The sixth time in history that the MLB season opener is happening in Japan. Why not give you guys our first bit of content for the year? As I said, we're going to be using this tier list here to kind of grade every team's offseason. I'm going to take a look at the additions, the subtractions, and just some of the other bits and pieces that I've collected in my research. Without further ado, let's jump on into it. I'll be jumping back to the tier list as I drop the teams in their spots, which I will do at the end for most teams. But for this team, I'm going to start in the National League West, and we're going to start with our World Series champion, LA Dodgers. They may be the only team in S tier. Spoiler alert. We'll see. But we know what they did, 98 and 64 last season, World Series champions as well. This team, what did they not do in the offseason? Let's start there. Starting on November 26th, they brought in one of the top left-handed pitching free agents in Blake Snell on a 5-year, $182 million contract. December 8th, Soto Day. This is a little signing that went under the radar, obviously due to the crazy news of Soto's contract. They got Michael Conforto on a 1-year deal, who's going to be a great veteran bat for them. They re-signed Teoscar Hernandez on December 27th to a 3-year, $66 million deal as well. They also brought over a KBO star, a Korean infielder, slated to play second base for this team. Not the Padres, now Rays infielder Hae-Sung Kim, but the same name, different spelling, Hae-Sung Kim, to a 3-year, $12.5 million contract, giving him his first Major League Baseball experience, which is coming with a lot of hype, considering what the Dodgers have done, especially last year with Yoshinobu Yamamoto, and now this year with Roki Sasaki and Hae-Sung Kim. These international free agents who, it's a little bit of a risk coming over, as the major leagues are a whole different ballgame, whole different level of competition. But the Dodgers seem to always have success with these international free agents. At least their history shows a pretty good trend in the upward direction for them and their team. A couple days later, they had to get rid of a guy, trading Gavin Lux, their second baseman last year, won the World Series with them. Traded him to the Reds for a pick and a center field prospect. Then, as I mentioned, January 17th, Japanese ace / phenom Roki Sasaki signing with the Dodgers after a long-awaited process. Couple teams in contention kept him on the ropes until he chose the inevitable and picked the Dodgers. He's considered an amateur international free agent, so lucky for the Dodgers, they have 6 years of club control, meaning if things don't work out, they can ship him off, they can do whatever. But if he does end up being, he's 23 years old, does end up being what he's slated to be, they're going to have him for the foreseeable future. Doesn't stop there. A couple days later, they signed the best closing free agent on the market in Tanner Scott. Came over to the Padres and was all right. I'd say had a better season in Miami, even though it didn't matter. But they got him on a 4-year, $72 million year. I know, Moses, where are they getting all this money? I could tell you, a lot of teams can do exactly what the Dodgers are doing. That's not the word, but putting the money on the back end. I'm sorry, I'm missing the term at the moment. Deferring the money is what I was looking for. Over years, it's not going to matter a couple years down the line. That's what the Dodgers have kind of pioneered. It's always been on the table, but they have clearly taken it to the next level. January 28th, Kirby Yates coming over from the Texas Rangers, the veteran relief pitcher, a nice little 1-year, $13 million deal. They extended Tommy Edman as well after winning the World Series with him, trading for him at the deadline last season, getting him from the Cardinals, who I will briefly talk about in a moment. I'm really sorry, Cardinals fans. Nice 5-year, $74 million deal there for Tommy to keep that middle infield for the Dodgers set at least for the next 3 years if things go accordingly with Kim. They re-signed one of their best relief arms in Blake Trinan, who's been doing it for the Dodgers for a while. Nice 2-year, $22 million deal. And also re-signed 2 familiar faces in LA, Kike Hernandez and Clayton Kershaw. It would have been weird to see Kershaw in any other jersey except the Dodgers. They brought him back on 1-year deals. Also love taking the risk on Eddie Rosario, 2021 postseason legend. They gave him a little minor league contract, and he has been playing all right in free agency so far, in spring training so far. My apologies. But with all that said, this is going to be definitely the team that it's close. Some other teams had some really good offseason as well, but the Dodgers by far S tier. Like I said, might be the only team in this S tier. It is just stupid what they did this offseason on top of retaining. I haven't even mentioned guys in this 6-minute rant: Mookie Betts, Shohei Ohtani, Freddie Freeman. All these familiar, amazing athletes and MLB players are all part of the Dodgers super team. I will come out and say it now. Zay and I are going to do our predictions video right before the season per usual, so stay tuned for that. But if this team doesn't win the World Series again, this is the biggest failure in the history of sports. You can bookmark it, you can clip it, whatever you want. I believe if they don't win the World Series, barring injuries, obviously injuries can happen, this team should probably waltz to a World Series, in all honesty. Almost forgot. Got a little clip here. Blake Snell and his debut for the Dodgers. He struck out Julio Rodriguez on a nice little off-speed pitch down in the zone. Dodgers fans hoping to see a lot more of that this season. Jumping over to the San Diego Padres, who lost in the National League Divisional Series to the eventual champions, LA Dodgers. If people remember, this Padres team was 1 game away from completing the upset and knocking off the Dodgers, but fell short. The Dodgers blew them out in Game 4 and eventually took Game 5 to come back and win the series. I'm very disappointed in this Padres offseason. I'll start with the highlight. Nick Pivetta coming over from the Boston Red Sox, a guy I know very well. Like I know him personally, seen him a lot, watched a lot of Red Sox games. He's going to be a great pitcher for this team. And I love the deal as well. 4 years, $55 million. That is definitely the highlight of the Padres offseason. They also signed Elias Diaz, who was an All-Star Game MVP not too long ago. Connor Joe coming over from Pittsburgh, and some minor league contracts as well to some players who have been good in the past but have kind of tailed off in this point in their careers. Those players being Yuli Gurriel, Martin Maldonado, and Nico Goodrum. Love giving them the minor league contracts, seeing if they can, play at a major league level and maybe add a spark to this very interesting Padres scenario that they're in. There's been a lot of talks about potential trades to Dylan Cease and Michael King, the two big pieces that they got in the Juan Soto trade to the Yankees. Xander Bogaerts is another name that has been tossed around a little bit as he is only getting older and his contract is only getting more expensive. He's on a pretty big deal for the Padres. They're also, I would say, at risk of not, this year, but down the line, if they continue to not be able to at least get past the Dodgers and, make a World Series. This team definitely has had that World Series talent, that upside. They just they haven't been able to get over the hump. I would say they're at risk of losing Manny Machado, who is on a fat deal. That would be some sort of trade package. It would be crazy. The guy we see on screen, Fernando Tatis Jr., these guys don't want to just waste the primes of their careers not competing for rings. So definitely a little bit scary if you're a Padres fan. Luis Arias as well, who is on a 1-year deal set to expire after the season. We'll see if he's still on the team. There's a lot that can happen over the MLB season, but the big loss as well for the Padres was losing Ha-Seong Kim to the Rays, as I mentioned earlier. The grade that I am going to be giving the Padres might shock some people. I'm giving them a D. I just feel like you were, again, one game away from knocking off the eventual World Series champions. I know you have a lot of bigger contracts, but that's not stopping your rival in the West and the Dodgers from spending money. It shouldn't stop you. Kind of a pedestrian offseason, I'll put it as that, for the Padres. Thought they could have done a lot more. And speaking of doing a lot more, perfect segue into the Arizona Diamondbacks, who unfortunately missed the playoffs due to that crazy playoff scenario between the Mets and them getting in on the last day of the season. They had to create an extra game because one of the games got rained out. There was a whole lot of mess at the end of the season last year, but it ended up with the Diamondbacks narrowly missing out on the playoffs after their unbelievable run to the World Series in 2023. As you can see on screen, the big signing December 28th, star right-hander Corbin Burnes agreed to a 6-year, $210 million deal for the Diamondbacks. The best right-handed pitcher in the market. And kind of an unexpected move. I personally didn't see Burnes coming to the Diamondbacks, especially after, them not making the playoffs. I know it was narrow, like I said, but I just thought he was going to go to a team maybe more set to contend, considering the 2023 run for the Diamondbacks was very unexpected. And the play of a lot of players last season kind of taking a step back from that amazing 2023 season. Corbin Burnes having a little bit more up and downs, although he ended up having a fairly good season. A guy that they lost in free agency to the Astros, Christian Walker, also had a little bit of a down year. It's going to hurt losing him, but they lost him December 20th, turned around the next day and traded for Josh Naylor, only giving up a pitching prospect and a pick, which I like. I think Naylor will fit into this Diamondbacks lineup well. They lost Jock Peterson to the Rangers in free agency as well, veteran bat. Not going to hurt too much as they re-signed Randall Grichuk, who came over and had a pretty good year for the Diamondbacks, as well as Kendall Graveman, who missed all of 2024 with injury, but posted a 2.42 ERA in 2023 with Houston. I love the moves for the Diamondbacks. They also extended their shortstop, Geraldo Perdomo, to a 4-year, $45 million extension. Lost a rental. They traded for him at the deadline last year, but Josh Bell, he ended up walking to the Nationals. All in all, big fan of this offseason as we take a look at Corbin Burns' debut here for the Diamondbacks. Jumping around in a couple clips, couple strikeouts. He threw 2 scoreless innings for the Diamondbacks as well. I'm going to give this team a B. I think landing one of the best pitching guys on the market, obviously unbelievable move. Christian Walker is the big loss, but like I said, kind of turned around and got Josh Naylor, who is a downgrade, but I think he has the upside. We've seen it in Cleveland. He definitely can play well in those big games. Overall, very, very solid offseason for the Diamondbacks. And at this point in time, personally, I think it sounds crazy because I'm kind of just giving up on the Padres. It's just after the offseason talks of trades and all that, the chemistry, I personally think the Diamondbacks are in a position to be the second team in this competitive NL West. We now get to the San Francisco Giants, a team I was very high on coming into last year. But the injury bug kind of took them out of commission on top of the National League West being as good as it has been. 80-82 record last season. But the pros, the continued development of Logan Webb. He threw 200 innings, threw over 200 innings again, back-to-back seasons for him doing that, being a workhorse, being their best pitcher. They lost Jung-Ho Lee last season. He only played 37 games in 2024, but was looking very solid in his rookie season. Excited to see him come back. Wilmer Flores, another player who missed 71 games last season, looking to come back and make a splash in the infield. Another big signing, the man you can see on screen here, the big one for the Giants, Willy Adames, coming over from the Brew Crew. He signed a 7-year, $182 million contract, the largest guarantee in Giants franchise history, which is really, really cool to see them spending money. They also locked down Matt Chapman. It's a 6-year extension. I like the moves for the Giants. I think that this team, they're kind of in a rough spot again in this very competitive National League West, with all of the other teams as well making some moves, getting better. We'll see what they can do. I have faith in them. I'm going to be a little bit more bullish and rein it back. I said they were going to be a playoff team last year. I don't think they are going to be again this year, unfortunately, just with the strength of their division. But we'll see. They brought in a vet, Justin Verlander, on a 1-year deal to, kind of mentor all the young pitching that they have, the Kyle Harrisons. This team, they could be on the come up again, just like those early 2010s Giants teams that a lot of us grew up on watching, and I personally love them. For the Giants, I am going to give this team a C. I think the Adames signing is great. Outside of that, not too much going on for them, but you're spending money. As a fan, you have to be happy with your team, not just sitting back and doing nothing, which, speaking of, got the Colorado Rockies here. 61-101 last season. Hey, they improved their win total by 2 games. They didn't lose 103 games this season. I'm sorry. It's really hard for me to talk about this team and have any faith after seeing what we've seen the last few years. Really no direction. They're losing leadership as Charlie Blackmon is calling it quits and retiring. They lost Brendan Rodgers. and they replaced him with Thairo Estrada, who was pretty good for the Giants last season, but kind of, I can't say regressing because they do have a lot of youth, as we can see on screen, in Toglia, in Brenton Doyle, in Zach Veen, Spokane Indians legend on the come up, playing great in spring training. This team, it's not realistic to say. I mean, it's not realistic to say that give them 5 years, they could have a top 5 outfield in baseball. It's hard when your best signing is Kyle Farmer, who is coming from Cleveland off of a rough season. They gave Keston Hiura, who used to be on the Brewers, a minor league contract as well, kind of a low risk, high reward potential move. I'm just, if Zay was here as well, his thoughts on teams being bad and not doing anything to improve. With that being said, I'm going to put the Rockies at an F, my first F of the offseason. Just not good. Not good. And I'm really sorry, Rockies fans. But let's get to the NL Central. And the NL Central champion last season, the Milwaukee Brewers, going an unexpected 93-69. I believe Zay and I both picked the Cubs to win this division, and that couldn't be further from the truth as they really struggled getting things going. But this team lost in the wild card to the Mets 2-1. The big move for the Brewers was trading Devin Williams to the New York Yankees for Nestor Cortez, prospect, and cash. Only 1 year remained on his contract, so I get it. They probably were in talks with him and realized that they weren't going to be able to re-sign him. So they shipped him out, got what they could, and it also opens McGill to be the full-time closer for the Brewers, who was pretty good when Devin Williams was out last year with injury. That was really all the Brewers did this offseason. I know that they won the NL Central last year, but you really only lost. I personally like Nestor Cortez. I think he can be solid still, could, be a good workhorse, eat some innings. But you traded one of the best closers in the game for what some would consider scraps. We'll see if that comes back to bite me. But I personally am not a fan of this Brewers offseason. I'm going to put them in the D tier, kind of similar to a Padres, except, at least the Padres spent some money. Brewers didn't really do that. We'll see if they can compete in this NL Central that should be a lot better. I say should because this team I don't think is going to be a lot better. The St. Louis Cardinals, 83-79, obviously missed the playoffs. You might, what, Moses, what are you talking about, man? They seriously did nothing. They haven't spent money. They haven't really made a move. They have done nothing to improve their team. They've only done damage, and I think this is irreversible damage as well. They lost Paul Goldschmidt to the Yankees, who was with them after 6 seasons, and kind of got a little quiet after coming over from Arizona, where he was one of the top players in the league. They shopped this guy that we see on screen. Funny enough, he's already got his bags packed because he's ready to go. They were shopping him all free agency just for him to still be on the team. And as we are sitting in this time frame, it looks like he is going to be a Cardinal opening day, which is just insane to me that they put him through all this, him being Nolan Arenado, and he's somehow got a smile on his face. I don't know. Personally, camera guy or one of his buddies must have said something really funny, because I don't really think it's sweet for St. Louis. They're going to be my second team, receiving an F in the offseason grades because just nothing. Didn't do anything, missed the playoffs, didn't improve. It's kind of embarrassing. But we're going to get back into the good category here. Back having some faith, man. The Chicago Cubs, 83-79, missing the playoffs. As I said, Zay and I were very high on them, but they just couldn't get things clicking last year. You know, Dansby Swanson, new threads. It was just took a while for this team to kind of find their groove, and they're hoping that this is the year they can do so. It all started on November 20th with the trade for Eli Morgan from Cleveland. December 2nd, they signed Matthew Boyd on a 2-year, $29 million deal, a little veteran starting pitcher for them, adding to their already pretty stacked lefty lineup with Shota Imanaga, Justin Steele, 2023 All-Star. Imanaga was an All-Star last season. And the righty, Jameson Taillon, had a pretty good 2024 with a 12-8 record, 3.27 ERA. This team's rotation, I think, is really dang good. And they also brought in one of the more surprising trades of the offseason. They got Kyle Tucker from the Houston Astros. They had to give up Isaac Paredes, Hayden Wesensky, and a prospect, but that is a move you absolutely make for a player of Tucker's caliber. He is going to hold down right field in Wrigley, hopefully for the foreseeable future. They had to, unfortunately, trade away Cody Bellinger to the Yankees, but opens up the spot for Tucker to be the everyday starter out there and right. They also made a swap. They got Vidal Brujan from the Marlins, giving away Matt Mervis, which I personally think is a slight upgrade for the Cubs. And then they weren't done with Houston. A little over a month later, after getting Kyle Tucker, they trade for Ryan Presley, who waived his no-trade clause to come to Chicago, for a pitching prospect, which I love. Presley has been one of the best closers the last few years, especially in the postseason in those high-intensity situations. He's been doing it in Houston for a while now. I'm very excited to see what this Chicago Cubs team can do with him. Jumping here to Matthew Boyd, making his debut, getting his first K in a Cubbies uniform. They also signed veteran left-hander Caleb Thielbar. They signed Carson Kelly, who had a all right season with the Diamondbacks, to form a catching tandem with the mainly everyday starter, Miguel Amaya. They signed utility man John Birdie, who was all right for New York last season after coming over from Miami. And veteran hitter, one of my favorites, Justin Turner, signed both of those guys to 1-year deals, which I love. Another reliever in Colin Ray. This team, hats off, applause, all the insert whatever here. This is an A offseason for the Cubbies. Personally, I think I'm going to double down. I think they're going to win the National League Central this season. We'll see. But just an all-around really, really good offseason. Love them making moves, making advancements, especially after the Brewers kind of, took the NL Central by its horns and did what they did last year. But love it for the Cubs. Another team who had a sneaky good offseason, I would say, are the Cincinnati Reds, who unfortunately missed the playoffs. They have one of my favorites, Terry Francona, as the new manager for the Reds. He took 1 year off from the majors and decided, I miss this. This is where I belong. He's back managing as he should. The Reds offseason got started on November 18th to be exact, when Nick Martinez accepted his qualifying offer that they extended to him, a 1-year, $21 million contract. Coming off the best season of his career, I really like keeping Martinez, especially with the young pitching core that the Reds have. I'm sure he has some things to share, some tips and tricks you're always learning as a baseball player. Even those veteran guys, you can pick up things from the younger generation. But love the move there. Speaking of younger generation, on November 22nd, they traded for Brady Singer from the Kansas City Royals. They had to give up a local favorite, Jonathan India, who won the Rookie of the Year in the National League in 2021 with the Reds. He unfortunately hasn't had a better season since, so I'm not upset at the move. Just sucks losing one of those guys that, kind of came up with the team, but that's the business. Joey Weimer was also included in that deal, shipped off to KC. On December 20th, they trade for Jose Trevino, who had an interesting way out of New York after getting exposed for not being able to throw a runner out. Teams were just auto stealing on him, and he just didn't have the arm to get there, but we'll see if Trevino can bounce back. He's a great catcher, great at managing pitching rotations, and just a good guy I feel like to have in the clubhouse. On January 6th, they replace India by trading for Gavin Lux, as I talked about earlier when I talked about the Dodgers. Love the move there. I'm sure Lux is probably feeling some type of way after winning a World Series with LA and them shipping it out. Maybe not, but personally, I think he's going to try and have a career year with Cincy, a little bit of a chip on his shoulder. They also traded for lefty reliever Taylor Rogers from the Giants, signed Austin Hayes, re-signed lefty reliever Brent Sutter. Overall, pretty great offseason for the Reds, and hopefully this guy we can see on screen, Elly De La Cruz, can have another jump, maybe cut back on those strikeout numbers, cut back on errors, and just be one of those, maybe top 10, top 15 guys in the league in WAR. That would be awesome for the Reds. I think that would be a victory. And we'll see. The NL Central, I'd say, is probably one of the more open divisions. It's kind of hard to say that, especially considering the off season that the Cubs had. But I'm going to give this team a C+. I know they're in the C, but we're going to have this kind of left to right, more closer to the next tier, right further away. So as I say that, let me make this little swap here with the Rockies. Sorry. But yeah, overall, pretty solid. Lots of great trades for the Reds. Maybe wish they spent a little more money. But I'm liking the off season and the new energy that Cincy is trying to come with this year. The last team in the National League Central, Pittsburgh Pirates, going 76 and 86 for the second straight season. Their big signing was on December 23rd, bringing back Andrew McCutchen on a one-year deal. They traded for Spencer Horwitz, who has been a journeyman since his debut in 2017, was all right for Cleveland last season. They also signed Adam Frazier, signed veteran lefty relievers Caleb Ferguson and Tim Miazza. The big thing, O'Neal Cruz moving to center field full-time after they traded for IKF, Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, at the trade deadline. O'Neal is excited, it seems, ready to take on that new challenge. Obviously, we know the arm that he has. He has a rocket, so that'll be awesome to have that in center field. We'll see if this maybe will cut back on his kryptonite, and that is errors. He would make a lot of errors at the shortstop position, costly errors at that. I also love the signings of Tommy Pham and a minor league contract, I believe, for Emmanuel Valdez, an ex-Red Sox. Not the best offseason for the Pirates, but again, it's not like a Rockies. Sorry, Rockies fans. They spent money. I'm going to give them a D, lower. I'd say D plus, but I'm going to put them on the lower tier of D, as I don't expect them to, make a big leap. And it's sucky considering they had one of the best rookie seasons of all time from a pitcher in Paul Skeens. Maybe, next year they'll open up the checkbooks a little bit more, but for the time being, happy with putting them at D. Last, but certainly not least, is the NL East. And we're starting off with the East champion in the Philadelphia Phillies, going 95-67. They lost to the Mets in the divisional series. Big signing for the Phillies on December 9th was Jordan Romano, the closer for the Blue Jays, ex-closer for the Blue Jays, on a one-year deal. They also signed Max Kepler from the Twins to strengthen the outfield on another one-year deal, which I like. They made a trade for Jesus Luzardo, lefty out of the Marlins, who has had up and down times, kind of hard to get going and get your, feet wet when you're on a team that's rebuilding and struggling every year. So we'll see if the change of scenery can bring the Phillies another stud lefty starter. And they only had to give up 2 prospects. Lots of contract stuff coming up after the season to keep some role pieces. JT Real Muto out. Couple decisions the Phillies are gonna have to make in this next season. I'm sure they're gonna be a playoff team, barring injuries and a complete collapse. But it was an all right offseason for the Phillies. On the tier list, I'm gonna give them C. Definitely C worthy. C plus. Love Romano, love the Kepler signing, and they're just kind of doubling down on the studly roster that they have that I am not mad at. Similar to the team I will be talking about next in the Atlanta Braves, who the injury bug again claimed this team, losing Ronald Acuna, losing Spencer Strider for the 2024 season. And they still snuck into the playoffs, 89-73. They unfortunately were swept in the wild card by the Padres, but I think the Braves are on a mission to come back and kind of let the league know that they are still a contender. As tough as that is to say with the strengths of the Dodgers and other teams. They kind of got things started off opening free agency on October 31st, trading Jorge Soler to the Angels for Griffin Canning, but they didn't tender his contract, and he ended up becoming a free agent and signed elsewhere. I believe I will talk about him in a bit. If not, he'll be in the AL video. So I thought that was a little interesting. Big signing on January 23rd for the Braves was Jerickson Profar to a 3-year, $42 million deal. Profar was one of the better I'll say it. He was the Padres' best player at times last season. And that's impressive considering all the star talent and up-and-coming stars that they got, Merrill and all those guys. But there were times where he won them games. So I love the pickup for the Braves, adding to their already strong outfield. They extended Reynaldo Lopez after his all-star season. It definitely sucked losing Strider, but their pitching picked up right where he left off, and they did it by committee. It was a pretty astounding season for the Braves. Chris Sale, we'll see if he can replicate what he did last year. They also re-signed Aaron Bummer, left-hander out of the bullpen, which I like. He's been with them for a while. This is a C grade for me. I'll go mid C tier. They're, again, like I said, doubling down on their – sorry, I didn't have the tier list up. They're doubling down on their, talent that they already have, saying, hey, injuries suck. They got us last year. They did what they could in the offseason. Felt like they could have done a lot more, especially to stay afloat with some of these other teams, but should be a playoff team at the end of the day. Can't be totally distraught about the Braves offseason. Yep, we knew this was coming. The New York Mets. They went on a run again after making it in, I believe, the last day of the season, to the NLCS, losing to the eventual champion LA Dodgers. The big signing, we know, the shuffle, the opposite field power. He let it known in his first start, his first at bat in a Mets uniform. Juan Soto went yard. Of course he did. He better when you sign the largest deal in professional sports history. Double that. Add one. 15 years, $765 million. Soto, he liked New York, I guess, but wanted to change the scenery and wanted money. His agent wanted money, and they got those two things. The Mets also acquired Jose Siri in a trade. They signed Frankie Montas to a 2-year, $34 million deal, which has already came back to bite them, knowing his injury history. He's going to be on the IL, I believe, to start the year, maybe for the first couple months, which really sucks for them. They signed Clay Holmes as a starter, 3-year, $38 million deal, which is a little intriguing. We'll see if it works out for the Mets, but Holmes has the stuff. It's always interesting seeing how guys are going to go from the bullpen to a starting role and vice versa. It's always a change of gears, change of pace. So we'll see how that plays out for them. Returning to the Mets, love this deal for them. And Sean Manaea, a 3-year, $75 million deal. Unfortunately, also injured. Probably going to miss the start of the season, but when he comes back, we know what he's capable of. They re-signed Jesse Winker on a 1-year deal. They signed Reen Stanek on a 1-year deal, flamethrower out of the bullpen. Re-signed Pete Alonso recently in February on a 2-year, $54 million deal. That took a while. It was getting a little scary for Mets fans, but they bring back the polar bear to hold down first base. Also signing ex-Washington Nationals prospect, and could be a good piece for them. He's on a minor league deal, so we'll see if he even makes it in the majors. But Joey Meneses as well. This is where Griffin Canning comes in. I had a feeling thankfully they signed him because they're going to need the pitching depth at least to start the season, and it's always good to have it just in general. Nick Madrigal coming over, AJ Minter coming over in the bullpen, and a trade for Alexander Canario, left field prospect, who in a couple of years could be their everyday left fielder. So unbelievable offseason for the Mets. Obviously, when you sign one of the best players in baseball, the future, unfortunately, doesn't come close to what the Dodgers did. They are going to be the second highest team on this list at an A+, but it's sickening. I won't get into it. Our last two teams here, but certainly not least, the Nationals, going 71 and 91 for the second straight year as well. They traded for Nathaniel Lowe, getting him from the Rangers, which I like. They gave up left-handed pitcher Robert Garcia. As I stated earlier, they signed Josh Bell to a 1-year deal. They signed Michael Soroka, looking to retain his 2019 All-Star form, which I like the low-risk play there. They signed a 27-year-old Japanese pitcher. Sorry if I butcher this. Shinosuke Ogasawa, a lefty out of the Japanese Baseball League, there, his first major league stint. They also signed some vets to some 1-year deals. Jorge Lopez, a reliever. Lucas Sims, a reliever who the Red Sox took a chance on, and it didn't work out. So wishing him the best in Washington. Vet Ahmed Rosario as well, and Paul DeJong, who hit 24 home runs in the big 2024. So overall, like the offseason for the Nationals, nothing insane, but again, at least they spent money. I'm going to put them in the C tier. I think you should be pretty happy if you're a Nationals fan. Not saying that they're going to make the playoffs and do any of this crazy. Like, they got some upcoming pieces and Dylan Cruz and, CJ Abrams kind of coming into his own, but pretty solid. for the Nationals. Our last team today, the Miami Marlins, another 100-loss team, only 62 wins last season. They traded Jake Berger for 3 prospects. They traded Jesus Luzardo for 2 prospects. They swapped infielders with the Cubs, like I said, giving up Vidal Brujan for Matt Mervis. They were both former top 100 prospects, according to ESPN. And then they signed Cal Quantrill, a right-handed pitcher who has been in Colorado the last few seasons. Going to be tough for first-time manager Clayton McCullough. He was the former Dodgers first baseman coach, so he knows what winning is like, but it's hard to win without the pieces. We'll see if Sandy can come back after, missing a large amount of time in 2024 and maybe retain that all-star form that he had, I believe, in 2023. But for the Marlins, to wrap up this video, I am going to put them in the D tier. That is what I have for you all. This is the National League grading of the off seasons. I will be coming back next week with the American League. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And I was about to sign off, but I need a song of the pod, which I don't have. My phone is charging. So, off the top of my head, I am going to go with... I'm sorry, guys. I don't have one. My mind is all over the place. I'm sorry. I'm grabbing... I'm doing it. Send the video. Technical difficulties. Sorry. I got Yeah by Young Nudie. Top 5, I would say. Maybe top 3. Pierre Bourne beat. Haven't heard it in a while and listened to it at the gym the other day, and it was pretty awesome. But that's what I have. Sorry for the long ending. Stay tuned. Got a lot of March Madness content, Zay and I both. So if you are looking forward to that, getting into college basketball again now that the season is nearing, we got all that for you. If you're into wrestling, Zay has been dropping some fire wrestling videos. He's gonna do most of the pay-per-views, I believe, so stay tuned for those at the end of the month. And yeah, that is all I got. Thank you very much for listening. Love you all. Appreciate you all. And we will see you in the next video. Later, everyone. Have a good one.